Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Washington football fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report. So, we continue to cover training camp here on the LouieTeeNetwork. Team back on the field after a 2-day hiatus. Obviously, one day was supposed to be scheduled to be off, the other a day off for social justice or injustice reflection. And so the team hits the practice field again on Friday. And it was described as a lackluster practice today, filled with mistakes, and one that Ron Rivera described as one that the offense got the better of the defense on. Was not all that pleased with a lot of the mistakes. There were a lot of offsides penalties and things of that nature during the practice. Just a lot of things that they thought they would have ironed out. And he said the team seemed as if they were a little aloof. Guys weren't all mentally focused and checked in. And, you know, some of that you may be able to chalk up to the events of yesterday and the day prior to that. And, you know, and some of it is just guys just needing to be able to compartmentalize a little bit better, which is what Ron Rivera said in his post-practice presser, that guys have to be able to turn off whatever distractions they have at home maybe, or whatever the case may be, something that may be weighing on them. You got to be able to turn that off and focus for 2.5, 3 hours at the facility, you know, in practice. And then, you know, you can go back to that afterwards. But it was one of those practices where you could tell guys certainly had other things on their mind, a lot of mistakes. As Rivera talked about it, he said, you know, these are the things we got to find a way to push through, as we talked about a couple of days ago when they had a lot of mistakes during the last practice prior to this break. So we thought maybe the break would give them a time to kind of rejuvenate mentally. That wasn't the case. They came back a little lethargic. But nonetheless, Rivera said that there were some good things and some good takeaways from practice. Offensively, you know, Dwayne Haskins was good in practice today. He was one of the few guys that gave the practice a little bit of energy with some of his throws. You had some good runs by some of the running backs. Rivera did talk about the running back position extensively during his post-practice presser, where he kind of talked about how this is a very diverse group, something we've talked about before, but he took it a step further and said, you know, all of these guys we feel like have shown something that makes us feel like they belong here throughout the course of camp. You know, AD with his leadership and his continued consistency. You see how he runs hard and how he's a leader on this football team, leading by example and showing guys the way to do things. He talked about Peyton Barber being a physical, tough runner inside, but also having enough quickness to get to the outside and do things there. He talked about the versatility of J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson, who he talked a ton about during this presser, who we'll talk about here in a second, and how those guys bring a level of versatility and pass catching ability that, you know, it makes them unique in this particular offense, and it fits what offensive coordinator Scott Turner wants to do to a T, specifically with those two guys. And then you have Bryce Love, who's kind of your all-around guy, which is what I've mentioned to you guys previously. So I've said this all along. I contend that 5 backs are going to make this football team. I haven't wavered. I believe that is going to be the case. 5 backs on this team. I think where the real question lies, and we talked about it last night, is the receiver position. Is it 6 receivers or is it 5 receivers? And in the linebacker position, is it 6 linebackers or is it 7 linebackers? I think those are your 2 questions that you really have at this point. We don't know the answers. I think this is a massive week, though, coming up. This last stretch of practice from today, Friday, to next Friday, I think is going to be a huge time period for this roster in terms of roster construction. Guys that haven't had a lot of reps are starting to get reps. Rivera said that they gave Joshua Garnett some reps in practice with the first team because they want to see what this guy has. They feel like he actually fits their run scheme and their blocking scheme a little bit better here than some of the other stops that he had. prior to getting to Washington. So they want to see what this guy can, provide for them. Remember, he's a former first-round pick. I've told you this, out of Stanford. And, the Stanford program is well respected for how they teach their players, especially in the run game, how to block. So, again, they want to see if this guy has what it takes to make this football team. I still contend that he will not make this football team when it's all said and done, but we'll see. And so I think it's going to be a massive week for a lot of guys. Wes Schweitzer was back at practice today. Like a guy like Wes Schweitzer, who hasn't practiced pretty much all training camp, this is imperative that he get back out there and show why they gave him a 3-year, $13 million deal, or else he could be cut. Again, none of the contracts handed out stands for Kendall Fuller. None of the contracts handed out this offseason are big enough contracts that tie the organization to these players past this camp. Anybody can be cut at this point. So, again, a Wes Schweitzer, 3-year, $13 million deal, there's not a lot of guarantees there. They can move on from Wes Schweitzer if they feel like they've got another guy that's been able to stay healthy, that's proven himself, and they feel like he gives them some good versatility and depth. They could move on from Wes Schweitzer. So him getting back on the practice field today was massive for him because he can't afford to continue to miss days. A guy like Sadiq Charles, who didn't practice again, he's going to be just fine. They invested a 3rd-round pick in him. He's not going anywhere. So when you look at a Sadiq Charles versus a Wes Schweitzer, if you're Wes Schweitzer, you can be cut. Sadiq Charles isn't going anywhere. So, there's a big difference between the two. Now, maybe a guy like Sadiq Charles starts the season on, the PUP list or something along that nature or along those lines if he's not able to get healthy enough to where they feel like, okay, we can't tie up a roster spot with you right now. We need that for a body that's actually healthy. But when I look at guys like Wes Schweitzer and some of these other guys that have missed practice time, you got to get back out on the field if you want to prove you belong on this football team. So it was good to see Wes Schweitzer back out there to try to see if he can get himself into the mix along the offensive line. Kendall Fuller was also back at practice after missing practice on Tuesday, which was after missing practice. Yeah, I said that right, Tuesday. Which was the last day of practice. They were supposed to be off Thursday or Wednesday and back on the practice field Thursday, but that didn't happen. So Tuesday was the last day of practice. He did not practice that day. Thad Moreau, however, was not able to participate in practice today, although he was able to put in a little bit of work on the side field. He did participate in some stretching as well. So he's getting closer to getting back onto the practice field, so that's good news. Chase Young was in practice today and did ramp up his workload a little bit more today. Actually took part in 11-on-11 drills, something he hasn't really done since the hip flexor first kind of flared up. So he was back out there, made some plays. They're still taking it slow with him. They're not letting him go full bore, but his presence was felt. He blew up a screen today, a tight end screen. He also was able to bat down a ball. And so he's very active out there. And head coach Ron Rivera said he looked fresh. So he's getting ever so close to being back to where they want him before they can turn him loose. So that's also good news as well. Some other news and notes. Rivera talked about Antonio Gibson a ton. And I want to talk about Gibson because this is a guy that we feel like is going to have to help out a ton, especially as a receiver, if this receiving core doesn't step up. So Rivera was asked about how Antonio Gibson looks out there to this point, and Rivera quickly responded confused. But he said, that's natural because we're putting a lot on this kid's shoulders because of his versatility and all the things that we feel like he's capable of doing. We're putting a lot on him, and, it's hard for a guy to come in and digest all of the things we're asking him to do. But he said, I'm really pleased with the way he's performed, and I love his candidness and his honesty because Gibson has told him at times, it's a lot. This is a lot coming from, college at Memphis where, I essentially did X, Y, and Z, and it wasn't hard to comprehend. This is a little bit tougher, but, Rivera said he's a smart kid. He's picking it up, but it's tough. It's a lot. You can see it wearing down on him. He said they tried to scale him back a bit and dial back the amount of things they were asking him to do. But Rivera said what that resulted in ultimately was less opportunities for him to be on the field And they said this is a guy that we feel like is a game changer and someone that needs to be on the field. We need him to be on the field. Our offense is at its peak when he is available and on the field. So they said they had to ramp it back up. And in doing so, obviously, he's a bit confused at times. So, and we talked about that with AGG. We've talked about that with a lot of these young guys, that it takes a while. It's rare that a guy comes in and hits the ground running right out of the gate. So expect some growing pains from, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on our live show. Expect growing pains, not just from the young players, but this is a young team overall. So expect those growing pains. Expect some close, tough losses. Expect blown leads and not knowing how to close the show. These are things that young teams eventually learn how to avoid and learn how to close the show and learn how to win. But this is a young football team. Expect mistakes. 10 guys in the huddle. Expect some of the little things to go wrong and some of the little things to be improved upon as the season progresses. And Rivera talked about how he's seeing the culture change right before his eyes. Someone asked him in the presser, what are some things that he's seen? Has he seen anything, if any, that has led him to believe that guys are getting the message and that the culture is changing? And he said, yeah, there's a lot of little stuff, guys picking up trash. And, you might think to yourself, these are all, ancillary things. But when you're trying to change a culture, even the little things matter. So, Rivera's talked about that as well. He talked about how tackling is something he's really concerned about. Because there are no preseason games, he thinks that the tackling could be an issue early in the season. And, he's probably not alone in that assessment. A lot of coaches around the league probably feel the exact same way, which is why preseason is so invaluable. Just little things like being able to tackle and getting guys on the ground and moving at, game speed and not having to pull up, which is what you do in practice at times. Speaking of pulling up at practice, he talked about Troy Apke and the hit on Terry McLaurin, and really specifically talked about Apke and his development. And, one of the big things that they saw on tape with Apke, and a lot of people had this as a knock on Apke, is his lack of awareness and also poor pursuit angles. And he said that Apke has done a tremendous job at cleaning up his pursuit angles. Yeah, he's still got some work to do, but he's gotten exponentially better in that department. And he also said that something Apke does need to work on is his awareness and situational awareness. He said, he'll know when Apke fully gets it when at practice in a situation where he looks up and he's ready to light somebody up and he looks up and he sees that it's 17, he'll pull up. And he said, that's when I'll know that Troy finally gets it. When you're young in this league, you're hitting anything that moves because you're trying to prove yourself. And he's right about that. But, as you start to get into this thing a little bit deeper and you understand, we need 17. I can't afford to have this guy on the shelf, and I can't be the one that puts him there because I'm trying to make a name for myself. And so he's like, that's something that he talked to Troy about and said, hey, you got to understand who you're about to hit. You got to understand the situational awareness, and that's on the field as well. Monte Nicholson, that's something he struggled with. If you recall, stupid penalty versus the Saints a couple of years ago that I thought really opened the floodgates in that ball game when the defense was actually playing well early on Drew Brees' pouring night. And, we've seen him pick up foolish penalties, hitting guys late over the middle, ball way over their head, uncatchable, and he lights them up anyway, picks up a senseless 15-yard penalty. It's called situational awareness. You got to understand when, where, and what is a good time to do certain things. And he said, that's something Apke is still, working towards grasping fully, but he loves the progression that he's seen from Troy Apke from day one to now where they are in camp. And so that's why they feel really good about where he is in his development. He talked about a lot of different things. Listening to Coach Rivera, who also talked about the quarterback position and said, yeah, I know when I feel like I'm going to start giving the guy that's going to start week one all of the first team reps. And JP Finley was the one that asked the question, and he said, do you want to tell us when? And he's like, nope. And he started laughing. So I've told you this already. he knows who's going to start. It's Dwayne Haskins. He doesn't have to tell us. We know it's Dwayne. But again, I told you I love the fact that Coach Rivera isn't about giving out any competitive advantages. You know, if I don't have to tell you, I'm not going to. No need in putting that information out there for the masses. He's going to hold on to that information as long as he possibly can. So I love everything that he had to say about camp today and moving forward. He said, you know, there's a lot of things that we still have to instill in these players. He said, you know, if anybody thinks that what they did last year was good enough, then they're wrong. They were 3-13 last year. You know, so this is a brand new culture that we're trying to instill in these players, and it's going to take time. But he said, you know, I feel like the guys are definitely buying in. So it all is starting to kind of come together. This roster is starting to come together. Like I said, I only feel like there are a couple of positions, you know, maybe corner you throw in there as well, that have some really difficult decisions for the staff to make. You know, to me, really, we know what the quarterback position is going to look like. We know what the running back, I think I know what the running back position is going to look like. I think we know what the tight end position, I think we have heard Rivera pretty much reveal to us what they are going to do at tight end. And I told you that last night. I think they're going to go with 3 guys. And those 3 guys are going to be Marcus Ball, Jeremy Sprinkle, and, of course, Logan Thomas. So I don't think there's much of a debate at tight end anymore, which was a position that we weren't sure about. I think it's really just linebacker, wide receiver, and maybe corner at this point that we're not sure about. So again, a lot of time between then and now to figure out what's what. But I think this is going to be a huge week for a lot of those guys on the bubble this next week coming up, because I think after this week, they're going to start really focusing in on Philadelphia. It's not going to be as much about trimming the roster down. It's going to be about, hey, let's turn our attention to Philadelphia. So, and I honestly don't know when the roster has to be trimmed down to 53. I would assume it's next weekend. I would going into the first week of the season. So naturally, this is a massive week from today to next Friday. I think is when you're gonna find out a lot about some of these players. You're gonna get a lot of guys getting some looks because they want to figure out if they're making the right decisions or not. And Rivera talked about, you know, the 53 guys on the roster and the other 16 on the practice squad. Remember, the practice squad has been expanded from 10 to 16. So that's why I said guys like Trey Quinn, for instance, who is a vested veteran in this league, can actually be on the practice squad now. They've expanded the practice squad and even relaxed the rules on how long you have to have been in the league or the snap counts and things of that nature. You have to have played or not have played to be able to be eligible for the practice squad. All of that stuff has been kind of relaxed. So it's going to be intriguing to see how guys respond to the pressure situation of this upcoming week of practice, because this is essentially it. So that's practice in a nutshell. Really good practice, solid practice. Though I don't over exaggerate. Really solid practice for the offense. They were better than the defense on today. So that's something that we'll look out for. And like I said, you know, you'll have your good days, your bad days. This wasn't a great day of practice overall, however. The energy level wasn't as high. There were mistakes in practice today. And so there's some things that definitely need to be cleaned up. But I wanted to leave you guys with one more thing. You guys are the first people that I'm telling about this. So I'm excited about this. I told you I had something to tell you guys. I wanted to do it last night, but everything wasn't finished. But now it is. So I'm going to reveal to you now that I've revamped the website. And I'm officially in the merch business. That's right. I'm excited about this. I've been talking about merch for a long time. And so you can shop the merch either on my site or in its home location. I have the link down in the description of this video as to where you can shop the merch. And so I have, of course, all of my LouieTeeNetwork merch available for purchase now. Long time coming. A lot of people have been asking me about merch. Now it's available, but I've got a special limited edition shirt for just us Washington football fans. And so I'm going to show you guys that right now. And so this is the limited edition Washington Red Wolves election t-shirt. So not a lot of these are available. So it's on a first come, first served basis. Very limited quantity, obviously, because it's time sensitive, and I didn't know how well it would do, so I didn't want to have a whole bunch of them made. So there's not a lot of these available. So you jump on this as fast as you can, because once they're gone, and I'll probably come up with a different design shirt for, you know, the fans of this team, but it won't be this particular shirt, more likely than not. So this is the shirt. I'm feeling it. I'm waiting for mine to come. It's actually should have gotten here yesterday. It's supposed to get here today. I was gonna wear it on the show last night and you know, tease it and show you guys last night, but it didn't get here yet. So mine will be here today, and I'll probably have mine on the next time you see me doing a show, whether it's a live stream or a local show. So looking forward to that getting here. I can't wait to put it on. But get yours while it's there to be got, man. Washington Red Wolves election tee available at the LouieTeeNetwork store. Again, down in the description, you can either shop, and this is a collaboration with me and the Print Champs, who does a phenomenal job on my merch. And so check out all of the merch that he has available on his site. But nonetheless, you can either shop it on the Print Champs or you can shop it on my site, which will take you to the Print Champs either way. But I've got a brand new site. So, you know, go peruse around the site. I'm going to have some videos coming out here shortly, you know, giving you all of the exclusive that I offer every year. Soul Survivor pool, winners and losers, the weekly pick'em pool, all of that stuff is returning again. So I'll have a video out with that information here shortly. But I just wanted to drop this gem on your melon first, because, you know, you guys are my fam. So you guys find out first before everyone else does. Revamped website. Also, merch is available in the store. I'm excited about that. That's been a long time coming. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Remember, I am a Washington football fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. Remember, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Make sure you hit the like button and turn on that notification bell if you haven't already done so, so you don't miss a thing on this channel. With that being said, I'm going to glide to the side, allow you guys to start getting your weekend jump started, whatever that entails. But enjoy your weekend, and we will reconvene, you know, maybe even tomorrow. It depends on, you know, what I deem necessary. But they'll be practicing. So if they're practicing, more likely than not, you'll probably see this face up in your space. But until then, stay safe, take care, and you guys have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.